and welcome to the End in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin, the owner of Meraki Media Management. The End in Mind is a place where we come to share stories, tips, and strategies of many entrepreneurs, creatives, business owners, and just some people that aren't willing to live the traditional lifestyle. We talk about how to live outside of the box today and how to incorporate what really is important in your life to keep that end goal always in mind. Again, if you would like to reach out to me in any type of way, you can find me on Instagram at Meraki_media_management. And I hope to hear from you all soon. Thanks so much and enjoy our show. Welcome back, everybody, to the End in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin, and I'm really excited about today's episode. I have a wonderful guest with me here. Her name is Katie Holland. Katie Holland is a sacred dance therapist, dance artist, energy worker, and she's also the creator of the Awakened Bellydance. I'm so excited for this interview, you guys. This is going to be so fun. Katie experienced a soul awakening at age 7, and her first Kundalini awakening at age 27, which activated her life mission. Originally from England and currently based in Egypt, Katie has lived and danced around the world since 2006. She has successfully expanded her business whilst performing for celebrities and studying with masters of cultural dances, tantra, shamanism, yoga, dynamic meditation, and healing techniques. Katie offers 1-to-2-to-1 online personal development, mentoring, webinars, workshops, and retreats for trainings worldwide. I am so excited for this interview. How are you, Katie? Thanks for being here.
I'm excited too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. I know that we've been chatting on Instagram for a while. A lot of our listeners know that that's normally how I engage with, our guests before we end up, jumping in to record. And I just love the content that you post. And I just think it's really amazing what you do. And can you tell us a little bit more about what made you want to take this leap into entrepreneurship, and just tell us a little bit more about your story and why belly dancing?
I guess there's lots of threads to the story, and I probably tell it in a different way slightly every time. I think with the entrepreneurship side, I really learned a lot as a child sitting under the desk while my dad was working at home. And I would hear him making business calls and the way that he kind of dealt with clients and managed his business. And I think in a kind of subliminal way, I really took in a lot on that level, which has served me very well as I grew older and created my own business. I was studying dance from when I was 3. I'm now 43. I saw a belly dance performance when I was 7. And I actually don't remember seeing it, but there's photos from a local newspaper of the dance troupe, and I'm in the background. It was very strange how it happened. And the woman who is at the forefront of the picture ended up being my very first belly dance teacher when I was 15. So I just had a real fascination with ancient Egypt, and I guess a knowing that I needed to be a dancer and that I wanted to be, and that this was something that I came here to do, that I was born to do. And so I've studied belly dance or Egyptian dance since that time when I was 15. And then along the way, as I've lived in different countries, I've studied other kinds of cultural dance and lots more in between as well. And then through that, it was while I was living in India, I was in a very showbiz world performing, and a lot of it started as a way of me keeping myself sane. Like I would go to dynamic meditation or to Sufi whirling, to Gurdjieff dance movement classes, and it was the balance for me.
Yeah.
And then after when I had the Kundalini awakening, I just got this very clear message that you have to create this therapy with belly dance, and if you don't do it, you're going to die. And this was the extent of the message that I got, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? And go from this extreme polarity of the kind of showbiz side to something very healing and empowering and therapeutic. And
Yeah.
so I spent the next 8 years kind of exploring that to then bring Awakened Bellydance into the world.
I love it. I love your story. I just think you're so inspiring. And I'm sure it was also, I'm kind of going off the beaten track here, but was it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, like, I'm sure it was scary taking that leap. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what I've known. I've done this for celebrities. You worked in Bollywood, like huge, contracts, I'm sure. And then it's like, okay, now I'm going out on my own and I'm trying to create like almost something out of thin air. I'm sure at the time, even though you had this such strong intuitive knowing that it would work, which I really value as well. I've leaned more into that side of myself within my business, and it's actually helped the business grow much faster and quicker than like when I was leaning more into that masculine side or kind of tuned out way of life. I don't even know if masculine is the correct word for that, but can you tell me more about what that transition was like and how you've been able to evolve? Because I just love the mission behind what you do, and tell us like more about what that work is versus what the celebrity and like Bollywood type of lifestyle would have been like.
Yeah, it was really difficult, and I guess I was getting the whispers for around 2 years that I needed to leave India, and I was getting a very strong feeling to go to Bali. I was ignoring it a lot, and because I was really afraid, and I guess even though I didn't buy into the ego side of it, I didn't actually realize how much of my identity was tied up in, oh, Katie, she's the belly dancer in India. Because my Facebook and everything, it all revolved around that, because managers would tell me, don't post photos without makeup, don't post photos with your children. It was quite controlled in a way, even though I managed myself, which was also very unusual, and especially in India. So I was in a very masculine world, very competitive, and very ego driven. So again, to not go into that was, although I didn't have any interest in it, but of course there's always temptations and things being offered to you, and sort of having the discipline to just keep on an artistic track, because for me it was about the dance and as an artist. So when I suddenly started to get this feeling of, right, I'm going to step away from performing, or performing as I was doing it, yeah, it was huge. And I was in England at some point in that time to teach, and I was sitting with my parents having dinner, and I said, I think I'm going to stop performing, or at least for a while. And I mean, I think my dad nearly dropped his dinner, and and it's funny because my parents have always been really supportive and encouraging. They've never said to me, "Oh, you should get a proper job," or they've always been really happy with what I've been doing. And my dad actually said then, well, what will you do? It was like that was my script. And I said, I don't know, but I know that I have to change something. I think the hardest thing then was to pack, or because I had lots of costumes, or I still have them, and all my things, and I knew I would maybe just keep one or two costumes with me. I always have them just in case, but everything else and all the props and everything, just to pack it away at my parents, and then to leave India. And I just thought, what am I doing? This is the height of my career, and I literally did it overnight. It was like, boom, right, I'm going. So then I went to Bali, and I realized that I needed space, really, and I needed sleep as well. Many years of not having enough sleep, and just to really kind of cocoon myself. And over that 2 years that I was there, and when Awakened Bellydance really then came into the world, it was almost like realizing that yes, I had achieved more than I'd ever imagined with my dream job as a professional dancer, but I had to step away from the dream to create another dream and the next level that was going to fulfill me. So in that way, it kind of is masculine and feminine. How it feels to me, it was like, yes, belly dance is very sensual and very feminine and beautiful, but to work in that world, you have to be very masculine, really, and aggressive sometimes to kind of fight your corner and be paid, and yeah, to even get a drink of water sometimes you have to demand, and which also is not natural for me. And then to kind of birth this very feminine, also very beautiful and very empowered Awakened Belly Dance into the world, it then gave me this balance.
Yeah.
And so the last 8 years has been, yeah, in evolving Awakened Belly Dance and spreading the word, really, and spreading the dance.
I love it. Oh my gosh. It's so beautifully how you describe it, because I can only imagine, like this world of not show business, but it is kind of like that. It like feels like this heavy competitive lifestyle. Like I said, I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology, but it feels very competitive, and I can only imagine what it's like living in that, like the no sleep, the stress, like I can relate to that on a micro scale. My boyfriend used to be a bartender, so he was like never sleeping at all, much different, but also kind of similar. Like lack of sleep is so important as well, and like feeding into your body. And that's what I love that you do now. And you said earlier that you kind of always found sanity through belly dancing. Can you tell me more about that and what that looks like when you're working with your clients and just like this different type of expression? Because I know a lot of my listeners probably have not dabbled in this, but it could be very helpful for them, even just like on a daily basis, to be reconnecting with this side of themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really movement. Belly dance is amazing, especially for women, because the focus is so much on our womb and on our hips and on the heart as well. I mean, it's a whole body workout. If you can look at it just from the physical side of it,
Yeah.
it is an amazing workout for women, for pregnancy, post-pregnancy, everything. But movement in general is so amazing for our bodies. And this was something that I grasped from a really young age. As I said, from when I was 3, I started with ballet. And I knew that when I went to dance class, I felt happy. Or when I danced around at home, me and my sister would always be making shows for our family at Christmas and things, and we would practice. And I always felt happy, no matter what was happening, or dancing equaled feeling good.
Yeah.
So I guess at the basis of it, it still means this to me, that uh, just the smallest movement, it's like a release, and it brings more flow and flexibility into your physical body. And the more that you're releasing your physical body, the more relaxed your mind is going to be, and your emotions. So you can do really simple things for yourself with or without music, that you can take an emotion or a fear or a worry that you have on a particular day, and just ask your body to move you through that emotion. So fear of not having enough money to pay the rent that month. So it's like a pretty general, obvious one. So you can say, okay, body, close your eyes, and okay, body, truth. How does this fear of lack of money move me? How
Mm.
can I express this? And it doesn't even have to look like a dance. It can be any kind of movement at all. It doesn't have to make sense or look aesthetically pleasing, because it's not for a performance. And and the more that you can surrender to that and trust your body's intelligence, the more free you can become. And you can use it at any level. So this can be like epigenetically, how we carry our ancestors' experiences and fears and emotions. I work with this a lot with people, and for myself as well. It's so surprising how much we're bound by all this stuff that actually isn't ours, whether it's come from the collective, the conditioning, from religion, from culture, from our lineage, and the expectations that the world has of us, and how we get more and more bound in this. The more we can explore it, and almost like pieces of a puzzle, like, okay, yeah, this, you might not even know exactly where it comes from, but you know that it isn't yours to carry. And through your body's movement, it's like opening locks. And and instead of thinking as your body being locked, think of it as you are locking your body, and your body's actually got the answers and the keys. So what we're doing with Awakened Belly Dance, we're finding where we've locked ourselves down, or we've allowed ourselves to be locked down, um, and how to free ourselves from ourselves.
Oh my gosh, I love that we're talking about this. And I wanted to ask you about this weekend. I was re listening to a podcast episode with Joe Dispenza, actually, and he was talking about how the body is like the subconscious mind. And that thought, like right before we were coming on here to chat, I was like, this is so weird how aligned this is. And hearing you say that of like unlocking this, because I think when people hear these larger concepts, like at least for me, it's like, okay, that makes sense, but how do you fix that? You know, like sometimes fighting brain with brain or like logic with logic doesn't really unlock those emotions. Like I know for me, that's been a struggle on my journey because I'm very logical. So I try to fight my unlogical thoughts with logic. And it's like, that's not going to fix anything. But it
Yeah.
sounds like with this, you know, this is unique.
Yeah, because you're kind of not bypassing a logical mind, but you're going in the back door. So
Yeah.
you're going sort of behind the control systems and sort of helping your logical self or your controlling self feel safe. And then through that safety and trust, then the other parts of you relax and open, that you can then access in a different way. If your logical mind could sort this stuff out, it would have done it a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be in the situations that we are. So it obviously isn't the logical mind that has the keys. It's the unknown. And
Yeah.
then this can sometimes be almost, it's like where the idea of, like, stand in the fear and do it anyway. But
Mm.
if you can stand in the fear and not be afraid to do it anyway, and know that there's something bigger and better for you, if you can step out of those patterns and controls.
Yeah, it's so on point that we're talking about all of this, like I was saying, because it's hard, it's challenging, you know, like those patterns, at least in my experience, are sometimes ingrained from like childhood, you know, like I remember like my experiences happened when I was 5, 6 years old, sometimes even like what you were saying, like you remember when you were 3 and you were learning dance. And I'm sure that there was a part of you that maybe had to unlearn some of that like structure, you know, that was put on you. And I have a hard time with that as well. Like with business, it's like, this is what I thought, you know, a business would look like. And in reality, my business is so spiritual and like very connected to my feminine side. So when I live in that masculine, I'm repelling, you know, those like feminine energies or just letting things happen or come to me. And I'm so inspired that you were able to make this transition, like you said, like overnight. You know, you just knew that it was calling and you had to do it. So tell me more about, you know, like what that was like, if you're comfortable sharing, like unlearning some of those, you know, masculine beliefs around dance overall.
Yeah, this structure and control had a very lifelong unlearning, I would say. And even sometimes it's like you can have all the best intentions to unlearn, but you can still be stuck in it and not really know where you're stuck. So what I've found over the years is some things have happened very easily and simply, almost like, okay, I see it, and poof, it's like, okay, I get it now, and that's, I can move on from it. But then there's other things, and especially the last 2 or 3 years, I've been really focused on some particular ancestral healing. And I've been working on this stuff since I was 15. And it's like layers upon layers upon layers, and still finding like the next step and the next step, and realizing where I've still been conditioned through that. So I think that this is something that's a lifelong process, and it needs continuous work, and but work in the best way, not that it's a chore. It's something that we're choosing to do every day. And some days it might be more than others, but it's like having that self-responsibility to really create the best version of you. And I really feel that that's one reason that we're all here, to evolve out of our conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's the integration of this masculine and feminine aspects of us, and or shadow and light, or you know, all the grey and everything. It's how we can bring all of this together and utilize it. Because I always say to people, imagine how much energy you're using to hide these parts of you that you don't want to acknowledge, or that you're ashamed of, or that you want to change, or you don't want people to know about you. You're using so much energy to hide this. And if you can allow this to be seen, even at least by yourself, it frees up so much creative energy for you that can be used in so many ways, and also brings more integration. And because what's thought of as masculine and feminine, it's like we need all of those attributes. It's not that one is better than the other or worse than the other. We do need to be disciplined, and we need to have structure, but it's not to the extent that it's like something so fixed. And then
Yeah.
on the other side, we do need flow and intuition and spontaneity. But again, if it's too much, then we're lost in the clouds. So how to bring that together and weave that into our life.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I feel like I said, like this is the journey that I'm on. It feels like that part of my journey, because I feel like, and I'm not sure if you can relate to this, but with my healing, like one day, like what you're saying, it's like very ancestral, where it's like not as masculine and feminine. At least it doesn't feel that way at that moment as I'm unpacking it. And then there's moments where I'm like, ooh, like I'm really showing up with a lot of masculine energy, like this past week or this day. Like I really try to look at it minute to minute, but it also is tiring. And do you ever have your clients kind of say that to you, like this is just so exhausting at times, because like especially when you first start, it's like I'm so drained because you're like having to retrain your mind to look at your patterns and look at them with sensitivity and beauty, but also like maybe that's something that's not serving me. It can be like confusing and exhausting. Like what do you do with those clients that might, feel tired by some of this work?
I mean, if it's in a training, because often as with Awakened Bellydance, it's residential, so we're all together 24/7 for, so far it's been 16 days, but for the next one I'm making it 18 days from now, because we need some extra time. Mostly I just have to laugh, and I'm not laughing at them. Yeah, people will say, I can't do it, it's too hard,
Yeah.
let me out, like I'm captive in this house, and it's like it's too much. And I say to them, look, come on, you made this choice to be here, and you just have to laugh that it's got to such a point that it feels, yeah, that you're making it so hard for yourself,
Yeah.
because it's coming from you, like how you're sabotaging yourself within that. And I can really see sometimes with people, and also when I do the one-to-one work and online, a lot comes up, and and then things will change in their life as well, which is almost like the universe saying, okay, are you sure you want this to change? Like
Oh,
I'll give you a situation to deal with so that it's mirroring what's come up in the session. So it can be a bit of a shock sometimes for
yeah.
people, because it's like yeah, they see how their outer and inner world is reflecting each other. And I give them space and encouragement, really. I'm like the, the one at the end of the finish line, like, come on, you can do it,
I
let's
love
do
it.
this. Like, like you have the power, like you haven't come this far to give up now. So I'm
Yeah.
a, I'm a bit of a kind of kick-ass, like I won't let them escape, but I'm like pushing, like it's like a continual pushing along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is like hard, and I think like another thing that I recently had come up this past few weeks, which it's like interesting when you start to heal because it does get easier every day, like, and then it just is kind of becomes habit or natural. Like, even if you do have intrusive thoughts or you're starting to have these revelations around healing as you go deeper and deeper, like how you were saying, the layers, it's not as scary because you've overcome so many other past beliefs before. It's like habitual at that point. But yeah, like when you're early on, it's also a lot of emotion that came up for me. It was like emotions that I had never even let myself feel or think. And I know a lot of people have this belief where it's like, okay, if I'm sad, I can't be happy, but in reality, feel both of those emotions at once, and that can be confusing for a lot of us. And I'm sure when they're going through this healing, they're having that same revelation. It's like, well, I want to move forward, but I'm also freaked out. Like, why am I just feeling this now in this house with like all of these people? It's like no place to run to. But I can imagine that that's actually easier in that moment to really just face it head on, like, especially when you have someone supporting you 24/7, because it's in those early stages. Like, I know for myself, I fell back into a lot of patterns and started doing, things that I used to do. And it might even just be old thought patterns. And even now I may struggle with them still, but it's much more spaced out in time, like I have the space in between. So tell me more, about like the thought patterns. Like, are you able to help them kind of unlearn that thought? Because I know that a lot of that obviously stems from ancestral beliefs as well. It's like passed down behaviors.
Yeah, in a similar way, really, of thinking that our body is this entanglement of
Mhm.
thoughts, belief programs, physical ailments, and it's like spaghetti that we're detangling. And this could be in any kind of form, because even if it's thoughts, if you're thinking something enough, you're creating an energy, like a thought form. So it's finding those places where it's maybe attached or stuck in the body, and again looking at it, and why do I keep going back to that way of thinking, and why am I sabotaging myself? And a lot comes back to like disempowerment and not feeling worthy, being afraid to be here and be in a body. Like, for people that are very empathic, the world is so overpowering,
Yeah.
and they're so, or we are so sensitive to feeling everything and from everyone,
Yeah.
that it's much easier and feels safer to really not be in our body, and to be kind of out there somewhere daydreaming and on the astral plane. But this doesn't help very much for living in a 3D reality where we're dealing with sort of more material things. So I have a lot of people that that have this fear of really being in their body and owning their body. And so learning how to be more embodied, grounded, connected with the earth, connected with themselves. And this can be so transformative for people, to actually really feel like they're here and present for the first time, maybe in their whole life. And of course, a lot of this, like the dissociation, can come from like abuse and trauma, PTSD, and so it's helping people to feel safe. That it's safe to be in their body and safe to be seen. Again, for me, this transformation of Katie, glamorous belly dancer, posting these kind of photos and things, to then being out in the jungle, like running these courses and things, and very back to nature. It was a really big transformation for people to see and to get their heads around. So it took me a couple of years probably to transform my connections on social media as well,
Yeah.
and to make it resonate with it. Yeah, to be more connected with the people that fitted this, and that I felt more, yeah, more a resonation with. And then it was this thing of being seen, that,
Mhm.
oh, so okay, you're a belly dancer, but healing with belly dance, like what on earth is that? And how how can you have created this? And this was really one of my biggest self-sabotages. It was like, who do you think you are?
Mm.
Like, who are you to do this? And I had to change this to, who am I not to do this? And this became my, and still is my mantra. It was like, who am I not to do this? Like, I have to present this to the world, and I have to really be fully seen in it, and own it, and believe and trust that it works, and trust my body that this information is coming through.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that you said that. I think that that will be our title. Who am I not to do this? I really
That's
resonate with
nice.
that because I'm having like a weird imposter syndrome moment. I've shared this throughout the show too. Like I'm kind of transitioning more into coaching now, which is so funny. Like I've been like a coach to my family like my whole life, like emotional coach or like whatever. Like I'm very empathic, just like you. So we pick up on those things and sometimes we just like know what to say to people, because we know how they're feeling. So it's like a unique shift for me. And I, again, like I had the same type of feeling. It's like, oh, well, what are people going to think when I'm moving away from Instagram and doing this? And then I was like, well, it can be like intuitive marketing coaching, like taking both of my gifts and morphing them together. So it's been a difficult journey, but the more you can exactly ask yourself, like, who am I not to do this? It really is our gift, and we might be doing disservice by not sharing, and like,
Exactly.
yeah, like hiding.
Yeah, and there's this word called synarchy, which I discovered a couple of years ago, and it means that everybody has their unique role and very special role, but it's not to the detriment of everybody else. It's like everyone has their job and their path, but it's all supporting. So a bit like a honeycomb. Everybody is there, and it's more in a community way. And one person becomes more empowered, and everybody becomes more empowered. So there's a constant rising up, and a sort of authentic
Mm.
community networking feel about it. And I really love this idea, and that we all have our special gift that we came to share with the world.
It's so true. I'm like a firm believer in that as well. It's like we all have our journey, our gift, exactly like what you said. Oh my gosh, that was just so beautifully said. And I hope that our listeners let that sink in, like take a minute to realize that each individual person has a gift or has something. And if you haven't found that yet, it's okay. You're just probably on the journey towards discovering it. And maybe doing something like this awakening belly dancing or, intuitive type of work will help you find that gift too. Because I know for me, like, I love how you mentioned the PTSD earlier, like 2 years ago, about 2 years ago now, I was diagnosed with PTSD. So being out of my body always feels safer. Like even now, it's difficult. Like I love being present with my body. So like I know I'm going through that transition, where it's like,
Yeah.
I like it, but it's hard. It's like the pattern because now I just have to remind myself, like when I am outside of my body, how much I enjoy being present and really like taking in the moment versus being somewhere off on those planes. I love how you said that because that's how it like feels when you're out of your body's kind of tense, you know, how you mentioned earlier too. So really just being able to come back to that present moment and like release it in your body. I'm like, I need to work with you. I think that that's something that would really do me some justice because I have different pains in my body, and it's like unique when I maybe am not as present, I can feel them more, you know, when I eventually come back, kind of thing.
Yeah, this is something I realized for myself is that often when people are out of their body a lot, they have a very high pain threshold
Mm.
because you aren't really fully feeling your body. When I began to connect more with my emotions and be very, again, disciplined, like I have a morning routine that I do to like get back in my body fully, because at night I'm wandering around on the astral, and I just really focus on being in my body, being present, cleaning
Yeah.
my energy, and making an energetic boundary around myself as well. And I found that the more that I did this and the more connected to my emotions that I became, the my very, very high pain threshold got a bit lower. And I
Yeah.
thought, what is this? Like, why does everything hurt more? And then I realized it's because I'm actually here, and and I'm allowing myself to feel. I'm not blocking my emotions, and I'm not living in a state of fear.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it completely changes the way that you experience your body,
Mm.
and how you experience the world. And then I found that my life got much more easier. It didn't feel like a battle anymore of like kind of not really wanting to be in my body, but at the same time battling to be in it. And then by not being in my body, of course, there's nothing, that sort of personal power isn't there to give you the momentum in
Yeah.
this material world. So there, I mean, there's lots and lots of different elements, but it sounds so simple. Okay, be in your body and be present, but when you do this and you make this part of your, yeah, your daily life,
Yeah.
life gets easier. This is for sure, and goes
Yeah.
for manifesting, for everything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like you described that's like exactly how I feel. And I remember like when I was first going through therapy, I was in conventional therapy. So I was describing this to my therapist, and I don't think she could really like piece it together. You know, it's like a little bit too out there. But that's exactly how it feels. It was like I was feeling pain for the first time in my life. And even now, like this weekend, I was working on the garage, and I probably like hit a limit, but I would force past that limit, you know, rather than letting my body rest and like picking up on the work later. It's like I have to learn the balance still of like what my body can take, you know? And it's so interesting because when I was feeling like back pain yesterday from like painting for 3 hours or whatever, it's like normally I would have never felt the pain, you know, but it doesn't mean that my body wasn't in pain. I just wasn't present enough to feel it before, you know. It's like so unique. And I love that you had described it like that. And I also love that you said being out there during the night. Like that's something that I do now as well. I'll do my breath work and meditations in the morning, like before I even get out of bed. And it really helps me reconnect, you know, and kind of like set myself up for the day. Because if not, I'm totally like, I'm still dreaming, you know, like while I'm
Yeah.
awake.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, so am I dreaming awake? Am I sleeping in the dream? What's the our perceived reality and what's our dreaming reality? And we're we're experiencing all of it. So
Mhm.
then where's the separation, and is there a separation?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is something that really interests me as well. It's this kind of conscious trance,
Yeah.
awakened, awakened sleep.
It's so interesting that you say that as well. Like, I think once you start on this journey, it's easier to pick up when other people are in that state as well. Like, people go in and out of this state, I believe, like most people on a daily basis or even minute to minute, like when they're processing something, they could be out there in that state, but like unaware of it, it's like very unique. So now when I'm sitting with people, I just try to be like curious about whatever we're talking about, or like the state that they're in, the state that I'm in, and just gaining more awareness around the situation also will help me, like, I guess, reconnect to that present moment. It becomes like kind of like a curiosity game instead of this like chore, how you mentioned earlier. It's like, oh, I have to like get back into my body again. It's like, no, just be aware of where everybody else is, and like that brings me back to the present moment too. Probably because we're empaths, like that might also be why that helps me reconnect, in that setting. But I was curious if you ever, I'm sure because you work with people in this state, you're probably very aware, when they tend to not be present.
Yeah, I'm like a little fisherwoman catching them with my net. And of course, because the whole thing with this mirroring that happens.
Yeah.
So, because I've been through this and it's been a challenge for me, to be in my body. Of course, I attract people that need the same support because I've been through it, and I've learned how to do that. And as well as all the other things in my life that I've been through, it's like you see these mirrors of yourself, maybe at different ages, at different stages. So then it's even easier because you recognize and and people sometimes say to me, how did you know? I didn't do anything. I didn't even look at you or speak. And I say, no, believe me, I can feel it. It's like I can see from your body language, from everything.
Yeah.
And of course, because I have a lot of experience as well now, so you see the patterns in within people that show up again and again, and how this pattern leads to this, that leads to this. And so you kind of build up a toolkit of how to recognize, how to support somebody with that. And it's been really amazing as well with Awakened Bellydance because I've actually got a lot of people who are therapists and psychologists and psychotherapists themselves, and they've come to train with me, and psychiatric nurses, and they've come for themselves for their own healing process because in their profession there's not necessarily something deep enough to support them. So they're supporting everybody, and they may be they're empathic, and or maybe sort of tuned in a different way. And like you said, when you went for therapy and it was a bit too out there grasp of what was happening for you. So lots and lots of people have come because of this, and because they need to unwind from their professional work supporting other people,
Yeah.
and they want to look at their own journey. So this has been really amazing, and a sort of unexpected nice surprise that people have this trust in me as well to support them in that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I think that everyone that works in that type of profession, or even if you're, on the edge of like discovering your intuition and unclear on it, like give it a go, like that's the way I see it. It's like, why not try it, and if it works, because it probably will, you'll feel amazing after the end of it, I think so many people are like blocked off, especially I find like in the obviously like westernized type of society, they just don't have that same need or calling. But opening up my world through online entrepreneurship has like totally changed my life, like I talk to my people like in my everyday, and it's very high concepts. Like what we're talking about is obviously not something most people discuss in their daily life. So it's challenging sometimes when you don't have that community. And I think that you're offering such a beautiful community and holding that space, as you said several times throughout the episode, and allowing them to just be, you know, like so much of society is the next thing, the next conversation, the next question, you know, instead of just sitting with it and dealing, working with our stuff, you know, and not suppressing it, how you mentioned too.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, yeah, to be ourselves and to be true
Yeah.
to ourselves, because otherwise we're constantly hiding behind masks. And I put this mask on when I go to there, I put this mask on for this person and this situation. And why can't we just be true and authentic, and yeah, and not take shit? You know, this is the thing. It's, why should we keep quiet when we see something unjust, or when
Yeah.
our boundaries have been compromised? It's, yeah, we really need to speak our truth. And I think now the way how the world is changing so much, it's like business and the way that we communicate, the way that we live, everything has to change, because it's not working.
Yeah.
It's really not working in the way that we have been living for a very, very long time. And I think now we have an opportunity to make these changes and be really conscious about how we want to go forward from here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more. It's confusing out there, you know, and being able to say what you believe and firmly, you know, understand that that's your belief and how you want to articulate it. And like for me, a lot of my work has been around like my reactions and how I show up and am able to express myself. And this is reflected in every relationship, like even my relationship with my puppy, you know, like it got gets deep. And the more I've been able to express myself in that aligned, you know, reaction, I find that I can trust myself more as well. So it just keeps building and building, how you mentioned that. And then you're able to express yourself in a way that people hear you and, you know, can accept your expression as well. Like, I think growing up where I grow up, like I'm from Philadelphia. So a lot of us are very reactive and don't always articulate, you know, in the best language. So that was difficult for me. But now I realize how much I've been able to grow, like even within those relationships and go deeper, you know, and really learn about people instead of always going in with like my assumptions as well, you know, like with my reactions. But I love how you said changing the world through being able to really like connect to that throat chakra. I really resonate with that. Especially on things like social media, it's like we can express ourselves in a way that can change how people approach one another or see the world or have these negative beliefs, you know, that really aren't true most of the time. It's just kind of a narrative that we've been told, you know, and we can tell the narrative, you know, like we have the power, what you said.
Yeah, and we each have a voice and a body, and how are we going to use this vehicle for the
Yeah.
best of the world? And even if you feel like, oh, I don't know enough people, or people don't know what I'm doing or what I want to do, it's like a pebble in the water, and still those ripples will reach out in whatever way you can use your voice. And this was also for me in this transition from India to Awakened Bellydance and everything. And I thought to myself, okay, that people, like I have students and people are sort of following what I do. So how
Yeah.
can I use my voice and and for the best possible, but without having an agenda. So I'm not pushing my own agenda. I'm I'm just trying to give a different perspective, so that it expands the way that we can think about things, and
Yeah.
how my perspective has also evolved as well. And I think everybody can do this, and even if it has an effect on one person, it's still one person,
I love
or even on your puppy.
Yes, yeah, it's so true. We have to use our voice. I feel like that is a perfect segue for you to tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and what's the best way if they have, more questions around this. And I think, that voice part, like, again, I just really want all of you guys listening to think about that and think about if you are using your voice and if it's how you want to use your voice, because Katie's really going to be such a great connection for you all moving forward on how to really solidify that. And I don't hear many people talking about this topic. So this is really like an awesome episode. Thank you so much for coming on. So tell me more about, how we can all get in touch with you.
Yeah, and just to add quickly as well, I think it is more than our voice, it's the choices and the actions that we make. So even if you're not saying it, it's the way that you live your life, the way where you put your money, where are you going to spend your money and spend your time. Like all of this adds to it, and it's all, yeah, that actions speak louder than words. It's the smallest actions can have huge possibilities. So I think it's a combination of all of it.
Love.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've really loved talking to you as well. So yeah, to contact me, I have a website. It's awakenedbellydance.com, and you can subscribe to my mailing list. And when you subscribe, you get a free PDF download, and it's called Staying Centered in the Marketplace. So, meaning how to stay grounded within all of the chaos of the world and your emotions and everything. So there's lots of tips, and there's a couple of video links that I made on YouTube, which are for grounding and cleaning your energy and this like energy protection. So the YouTube channel is also Awakened Bellydance, and there's lots of videos on there. There's some workshops as well and more interviews. And yeah, and then Instagram, Awakened Bellydance, Facebook, Awakened Bellydance. Yeah, all of that. You can follow me and the facilitators, and we've got a nice community. And there's facilitators all around the world as well. There's one, the first one came from the US this year. Yeah, so we're spreading, and
Yay.
yeah, and it's very much about community and how to, yeah, how to support each other in being as empowered as we possibly can be. So I offer one-to-one sessions, which are like self-development sessions, and also there's a 7-session course which acts as a prerequisite to taking the full training. I usually hold the training once or twice a year, and then I do webinars as well, and sort of various workshops, and yeah, there's all kinds of different things. So you can keep a lookout on the website, and then I send a newsletter out every month as well.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed like our conversation, and we'll have all the links below for you guys as well as more information on Katie. So you can read up on her in the show notes below, of course. And then we'll have all of her links for you guys to get in touch and stay in the know of upcoming things that she'll be going on. I'm definitely subscribing to the mailing list. So thank you so much for saying that. I can't wait to read the PDF too.
Yeah, and also I run retreats as well. So these are adventures into yeah, in different countries, and I'm hoping from next year, obviously with travel again, that we can get those up and running more. And I've got one happening in Egypt in March 23. So yeah, so lots of yeah, like sacred dance and yoga retreats. I really love taking people on adventures.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. We'll have to have you back on to tell us about the adventures that you've done and give us some more insight into the retreats because those sound wonderful. And I'm definitely going to have a look. I haven't been to Egypt yet, but it's definitely on, the bucket list. So thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, just so everybody knows one more time, everything will be linked in the show notes below. And thank you so much, Katie, for your time today.
Oh, thank you, Caitlin. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for listening to The End in Mind. I would like to remind you all, if you haven't yet reached out to me on Instagram, we are at Meraki_media_management. It will be in our show notes as well. If you would like to reach out to me, we always offer free coaching through Instagram based around our Instagram training and our business Instagram practices. If you need any type of support, please do not hesitate to reach out to me there. And we also offer several different types of consulting and training packages if you're looking for a little bit more in-depth tips. So thank you all for listening in, and of course, I want you all to keep the end in mind as you continue with your day and or work week. Have a great week, and I will see you all next time.